man. Maybe Jason can come up there, who called in earlier, and give you some words of wisdom, because he didn't share any on the radio a minute ago. All right, let me get to I'm going to get to your calls in a minute. We got a couple of tickets still to give away to Billy Joel. We'll try to do that. But in the meantime, let me get to my guest, John Venable from the Heritage Foundation, to talk more about this disturbing report about the state of readiness for our military. John, how are you?
Mark, I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Well, I'm doing all right, thank you. But, I've heard Donald Trump talk at MacDill Air Force Base yesterday about how he's going to help the military. It sounds like that help can't get there fast enough.
No, it sure can't. The vice service chiefs all spoke in congressional testimony this morning, and they reemphasized the point that we've known for a while. They're actually coming clean with things that the services have known for the last 4 or 5 years that they haven't been able to say out loud. The services are in a dire state, and it's going to take time and a great deal of money to bring them back on point.
Haven't been able to say out loud because the previous Secretary of Defense or the administration didn't want that information out there?
Yeah, well, all of the services actually serve at the behest and the pleasure of the President of the United States. And it's his policies that he is going to promote. And if you go outside of those policies, then you are put in check in rapid fashion. Whether it's a budget and they force a budget on you and you have to agree to it, and you talk about what a low budget is, they come back, and the Obama administration on several occasions came back to the service chiefs and said, you agree to that budget, and you'd better do so publicly. And so now you're starting to see the services come clean. Got a little bit of latitude to talk, and the environment, the actual atmosphere has changed significantly in the last month.
Well, I may misjudge this, but quite frankly, I think that if the American public knew this, they would have been sympathetic to the fact that the military needs more resources, and that's not where the previous administration wanted to put its resources.
That's exactly right, Mark. And the difference is that you can drown out any noise. As the president, you've got the bully pulpit. And if you're the one who comes in and says, hey, we've got the greatest services that have ever been known in the history of man, you're not going to argue with that, are you? It goes back to a line from Animal House. You can't challenge someone who's talking that well about something we should all be proud of.
Yeah.
When in fact the services are on their heels. We haven't seen this level of readiness since the Carter administration, and we're actually below that now.
Yeah, kind of explore that for me a little bit. When you say that, what does it mean? I mean, I saw the headline that nearly 2/3 of our strike fighters are grounded. I would assume because they don't have parts for them. They can't keep them in the air?
That's exactly right. And so with the F-35 program to come online, all of the services, the Air Force, Navy, and the Marine Corps, all programmed their fourth-generation fighters and the spare parts and everything else associated with it to start weaning out as the F-35 came online. That F-35 didn't come online, and the demand on our air assets in the Persian Gulf, be it Syria, Afghanistan, or Iraq, has never decreased. So what would have been very advisable for the previous administration is to bolster the budget associated with parts and operating budgets, and they did not do that. So they had to take it out of hide, and what you're looking at right now is not a third, but this morning Admiral Moran said 25% of Navy aircraft are flyable right now.
So 2/3 are not flyable?
That's exactly right.
Or 3/4, I should say, not fly. That is stunning.
So, Mark, if I could put this in perspective, I was a fighter pilot flying F-16s back in Spain in the 80s and 90s, and we had an 80 to 90% level of mission readiness for our aircraft. But what that meant was that 80 to 90% of our aircraft would have been on the schedule on one day, and then you would have worked those other 10 to 15% of the aircraft back into the schedule the next. They were just going into routine maintenance. Now with this level of 75% of the aircraft are not in a flyable state, you're not even coming close to 40% of the aircraft becoming available in a week or maybe a month's notice. And that's if they have the spare parts and the maintenance personnel required to fix them. We are on our heels.
This needs to be the lead story on every network newscast in America tonight, although I know it won't be, because people need to realize how serious this threat is. I know the National Defense Authorization Act is going to be coming up shortly. I'm guessing now, and tell me if I'm wrong, John, that with Republicans in control of both houses and a Republican president, we can actually do something with this. I mean, sequestration is still not part of this, correct? I mean, we're past that, correct?
No, sequestration and the Budget Control Act are still governing our military expenditures. So for every dollar that we give the military, we have to spend another dollar on social programs.
Oh.
And so that cap is in place. And Mark, if you think about somebody who's been on a raft lost at sea for 3 or 4 weeks, if you come in and try to feed them right away, they'll die due to stomach ailments and intestinal tract issues. That's where our service is right now. You could not come in and throw as much money as they actually need because they could not employ it fast enough. What we're looking at the Heritage Foundation, what Senator McCain and I think most of the conservative members in this city are looking at right now is beefing up the budget by $40 to $70 billion for next year, bringing them up to around a $640 billion budget for the military. And that's a good first step, but we're going to need substantial increases in the following years as they begin to spin back up and be able to digest solid food again.